Good Monday morning. Today we are going to explore how good, okay, let's see, this is a long one. How good are ES6 class property arrow functions?
Yay!
Yeah, so many people are talking to me about how they are magically good and stuff, but they have caveats, and I've been wanting to make a video about it for a long time. We are your hosts. I'm MPJ.
And I'm David.
And you are watching Fun Function. All right.
Okay, shall we do the sponsor? Framer doesn't have a script.
Oh,
really?
Oh, that's actually good. I think we could just use it free flow a little bit because you are kind of more familiar with the product than I am.
Yes.
Today's episode is sponsored by Framer, and I'm really happy about this sponsor actually because it's a really good product. So a big problem that we used to have while I was working at Spotify is like the collaboration between designers and developers. So they would basically just dump they would give us these Photoshop files, and we were like remake them. And for us, like, we wanted to create like these shared components, but they couldn't really use them in their prototyping things. And that's where Framer is so nice, because
the developer can build the components, and then the designer can just use your component that you as a developer has built.
Because Framer is completely React based under the hood. That is so fun.
It's amazing. And also, if you're a developer and just want to get something pretty good looking, pretty decent looking while you are prototyping, it will just look amazing. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic, like, if you want to up the game for like how well you collaborate and with the designers in your organization, and tighten up the feedback loop between designers and developers, like, really check out Framer. Like, it's such a good product.
Yeah, check it out.
Yep.
This episode can be watched by itself, but it's also a follow-up episode on the episode we did on dev tips about this and bind. So we'll just have a super brief recap what we did there, sort of adapted to this environment. So you can go and check out the video. But what we did there was that we had something, a dragon in this case, and it has some property that is tied to this, this dot element. So it has a breathe function. You know this from all the fluffykin stuff. So the dragon is breathing something. So let's make const fluffykins. It's kins with S, right?
Yep.
Okay, this is the more elite.
Oh yeah, elite fluffykins.
Fluffykins, because it's a new dragon that breathes fires.
But it's elite. Can it breathe memes?
Oh, memes.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. So the problem is this. Say that we have a button somewhere in our thingy.
Yep.
And the button has an on-click handler.
Yep.
Right now. So we have null, like that.
So this is like a button in, like, this is our simulation of what happens in the DOM, right?
Yeah. So, oops, where am I? Button.onClick, and then we just add on the button. When we click the button, we want fluffy kins to breathe.
Yeah.
It's fire. But what happens then if we click it? Do I run here? Is it running, Quokka?
It says it has an invalid syntax.
Where did I invalid?
File how good are ES6 arrow has invalid syntax. It just says it has invalid syntax. Gee, thanks. Yeah, I just wrote this example. Did we actually check it? No, wait, I see it. It's here.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
You're idiot.
Okay, like that. Thank you, Koka, sort of.
Well,
so,
yeah.
when I click here, button on click, it says I'm breathing undefined. And why is that? That is because the unclick is referencing the dragon's breathe function which is basically something that lives by itself. It has nothing to do with the Dragon class. So it returns, I am breathing this element, but JavaScript needs to figure out what this is. And when it's here on the button, it just thinks that the button is this.
Yeah.
And the button doesn't have an element.
We're assuming here that you know this stuff. Like on the fun version audience is expected to know it. But if you don't, and this thing that we just explained confuses you in any way, like this video is just going to make you even more confused. So if that confuses you, go and watch the video that we made on dev tips, because that is like dives deep
it's
into
explaining
why
all
this
stuff.
is. Yeah.
Okay, so now you know everything. Now we can get to this episode.
Yes. All right. Cool. So a lot of people.
Pause. Let me just. I need to double check one thing.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. All right. So in order to fix this, we do like this bind thing. We do fluffykins, bind fluffykins, and then I am breathing memes. Now it's fixed.
Yay.
And because of this, you see like a hojillion, kabillion bind statements all over all apps in JavaScript. Like this is gonna be, bind statements are very common, especially in React apps, but well, pretty much anything dealing with the DOM and reassigning event handlers and stuff. The thing is, like, there's a lot of, so that's one way of solving the problem. But there is actually, there's this thing in, don't think it's actually in JavaScript quite yet. It's a proposal, or like very close to being implemented. But I think you can do these as arrow functions. I'm not exactly sure on the syntax here, because this is something that I never do. Let's actually just, I have to look at this. ES6 class. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. It's interesting that the first article is arrow functions and class properties might not be as great as we think. Yeah. We're going to talk about the problems. And how do they look? How do they... Handle click equals... Oh, it's... You do this, I think. Like that. Right?
This whole thing with the shorthand of writing things, like, it's... Now we... I think it's confusing.
Yeah, it is. That I expected that to work, actually. Do we have to do something in order for this to work? Shit. Do we have to make this... Do we have to do something to make this work in Quokka? I think we have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sidestep, but I actually think it's good because people will run into this.
Should I do something? Should I run Quokka on the...
Yeah, exactly. You need to do it with the... Figure out how to add bobble presets to Quokka and add ES 2017 and stage 2. I'm gonna send that on the chat. So you have it. I'm gonna add this. Need bobble presets. Also added this to our document. Like this document that you're seeing here, this is a Notion document that we're gonna be linking in the episode description.
It's running!
Oh!
It wasn't installed.
No, I think it was we installed some other thing. Like
okay.
they have probably changed it because
yeah.
Bobble is like...
Yep.
Oh,
okay,
Bobble is
never
the
mind.
worst moving target ever. Okay, that took like 25 minutes to get the class arrow function working. Oh god, that was so annoying. Okay, let's actually just add that to our Notion document so that people don't have to suffer through our pain. I'm gonna add that here. I'm gonna like, so the Quokka, in order to get that working, we did this, and then to get the bubble RC working, we did, are you adding it? Oh, awesome. Add a code block. All right, that was annoying, but now we finally have,
Yeah.
it's all, but I mean, it's good. Like this is, and also like, just to note, you have to install this plugin in the node modules directory.
So, what did you do here with breathe? Is this a property arrow function?
Yes, this is what I suppose we call it's a class property arrow function. Like it's a little bit weird to call it ES6.
Class property arrow function.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit weird to call it ES6 actually, because I think you're just gonna do that because ES6 doesn't really exist anymore. That term was.
I would rename the file. How good are class property arrow functions?
Yeah.
Like that.
Cool. Oh.
Okay.
There we go. So is Quokka running now? Because I'm not getting like any evaluation here.
Oh, I had to restart when I renamed the file.
Yeah,
So,
right.
like that.
So now this is actually working, right?
I'm reading memes.
Yeah. So let's, if I uncomment the problematic code down here.
Yes, the button thing.
Yeah. I think that this should hypothetically work.
I don't think you're in my share any longer, right?
Maybe.
Did you change anything in how good are class property arrow functions.js?
I did. I uncommented the code.
I don't see you.
Okay, cool. We have the same. Like, I'm leaving it and I'm rejoining it. Fantastic technical problems. Live. There we go. Wow.
Now you're here. Okay.
All right, brilliant.
Do you see what I see in the how are?
I do. I can see you live.
Do you see me writing here?
I do. Okay, so now go ahead and uncomment the problematic code that we have before. And see if...
Button on click,
Yeah.
and then we tie that to breathe, and the button on click says I'm breathing memes. So it seems to be working now as expected. We didn't need the bind part.
Yes, exactly. So just to like show it again, let's convert the breathe property to a normal function.
Like that?
No, I mean just not use the arrow function syntax.
Okay, oh, you mean show the problem again? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
And
So
now
now
it says I'm breathing undefined instead.
Yeah.
Okay, so this way of writing breathe as a property function,
Yeah.
the normal property function, and then we would have to use bind here to tell the breathe function that this should be fluffykins
Yes.
to make it work. Fluffykins to make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
But removing this and then making this a special class property arrow function, make it work anyways without bind.
Yeah. All right. So, at first glance here, this seems to be pretty cool, right? Because it just fixes the problem magically. Just use arrow function properties all the time, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, this syntax is not actually, like, the JavaScript object model just works a certain way at its core, right? Prototypes, we cannot, like, change how the prototypal object model works. This is what it does. This dot breathe. This is what is happening under the hood. Equals this dot breathe dot bind, and it's gonna bind it to this.
Okay, that just very many this in that line.
This. Now I think that we can actually do this as a normal function method instead, and yeah, now it works. So here, this is also like a common problem common way of solving the whole this shalababa mess, is to simply just whatever, we're just gonna bind and create new functions scoped to this at construction time. And well, you can do this. The problem is that you are creating a new function every single time you are instantiating Fluffykins.
So it's not a reference.
No.
You're actually making new ones.
Yes. And I mean, so if you're creating like a hojillion kabillion Fluffykins here, you're creating a hojillion, like for every method, you're also creating like a new function. And this kind of destroys the entire point of having a class in the first place. Like it's like the point of the class is to save that memory space. And in my mind, if you start using class arrow functions, and especially if you start using them everywhere, I think personally, and this is something that I also like Crockford likes a lot, is to simply just throw away the classes like they're just a mess and use a factory function instead.
Yeah, because classes doesn't feel like JavaScript really.
Yeah, it's like, you see, like this is so messy. And like we use this arrow function and think that, oh yeah, it has solved something, but under the hood, like it has these weird performance implication that you're completely like just, So.
Okay, so let's rewrite this as a factory function.
Yes.
I have never done that in my life.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna instruct you.
Yes.
So create a function called create dragon. Okay.
Create dragon.
Yeah.
An arrow function or an ordinary function?
Doesn't really matter. Let's just use a normal function, really.
Yes.
And or make it a const, otherwise the OCD people will die.
Oh, like that?
Yep. And now, like this is gonna be like very similar to how you did it on the dev tips episode. It's basically just gonna create an object.
Okay. Like that?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with that. Yeah. And it's gonna have let's fix the element thing.
Yeah. Like that?
Yep, perfect.
And then the breathe function?
Yep.
I will just write it like this.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then return this object?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yep. And now you can comment out the dragon class and don't delete it so that we can keep it next to. You can also comment out the instantiation as well. Cool. And now we use create dragon instead to create Fluffykins.
Like that.
Cool. Right. We still have.
And now we get the undefined arrow down here.
Exactly. Yeah. So because we still have the.
I will just move the class thingy here, so we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So that makes sense because we are still using this in the create dragon right now. But in factory functions, this does not exist. Like that is we don't care about that. That is not a concept for them at all. Like we simply don't use this because this is insanely confusing and ambiguous and problematic.
Okay, because we don't know what might happen.
Yeah. So what you do instead is that you just declare like instead of using like it as a property on the object, you just declare a constant inside of exactly.
Like that?
Yep. Can remove that. And then you just refer to element. So you don't use this, you just use element. And as you see, like since the we don't actually have to do that reassignment there either on line 2. This is actually unnecessary because we can use.
Oh yeah,
the
we
argument.
already have it.
Yeah,
we just got it.
Yep. We can use the function argument actually. And there you have it.
Okay. And now everything works, and this part here down here works as well.
Yeah, exactly.
As expected.
Sure. And you see how simple this is?
I like it.
It's like because it just...
And there is no property arrow function magic here.
No, it's completely it's completely transparent what the hell is happening. I mean, we have a performance problem here, or a memory problem, or whatever you want to call it, like because we are now creating like a new function every single time. But that happens in the class arrow functions case too. It's just that it's invisible to us. It's hidden because the Babel does transpiling, or the JavaScript engine does like performance implications. But here, like it's very clear what the code is doing. Like there's no hidden
So
magic.
basically, when we do the factory functions, we're sort of removing the whole purpose with classes is that you have sort of like a blueprint, and then you build a new thing out of it.
Exactly, and everything is a reference. So you just like there's like not a huge amount of things recreated every time.
But down in the class dragon, when we use the special property class arrow function, class property arrow function, whatever, then we converted the class thingy, so it was basically just, it had like memory implication wise, it became the same thing as this factory function, and that's why we might as well just write it as a factory function.
Yes.
Yes. What did we learn?
No, like I want to say one more thing. Do you notice something with the arrow, like with the factory function, a benefit that we have that we don't get with classes? Hint: it's related to the element. If between line 8 and line 9, try to access element from the outside.
Impossible.
Exactly.
Oh.
You can create.
So we get sort of like the private thingy.
You get private
from
properties.
Class, from like if you're. So like in Java, you always write like private blah blah, private int, private blah blah blah, private public whatever, which we don't have in JavaScript, but now we get it implicitly.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you get that for free, like, and this is like if you understand closures, and you kind of doesn't even have to understand the concept of closure. It's just so simple what is happening here. Like there's no mess with this, this, whatever you're gonna, if you reassign it to on-click handlers or whatever you do, it's always gonna work. And yeah.
So what is the? Oh, sorry.
So I just feel like when you start like falling into like using like these class arrow functions and stuff, like then you have welded yourself into such a mess with classes. Like you have like a solution on top of a solution to solve a problem created like that, just created by classes. And God, just throw that away, in my opinion, and just use factory functions. They are so simple and so elegant. And like this memory here that this wastes, it's so inconsequential. I ran like an object creation performance test on my phone, and it can like create 2 million objects per second.
But why was this class property arrow function suggested in the first place? Like, is it because of that people are using React or Angular? Why is someone suggesting it?
So whenever one of the big benefits of factory functions, so when I argue for factory function, is that we don't have the mess with this and bind and stuff. Like element here is always going to be element. And then people that are proponents for classes go and say like, hey, this is not a problem in classes. Nowadays, you can just use class property arrow functions. And that is like when I want to argue this point that, yeah, but if you're doing that, you get the same performance problems that factory functions have, and then you might as well just use factory functions because they are much more elegant.
Cool.
Do you get it?
Yeah, I get it. And of course we can rewrite this so it looks way nicer with new syntax and everything, but whatever.
Let's actually do that. I just want to do it. So I could just
make it the updated syntax.
Yeah, I could just do this.
And can we do the breathe like this?
Yep. Oh, you can. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Shit.
Yeah. So now it looks way nicer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing.
I had never heard of the class property arrow function, so for me it wasn't really a problem that we solved here. But
well, it's just
comparing because I liked classes. I started with Java. That was sort of like I started with PHP, but proper programming I learned through Java, and then I started with class and object oriented, and then I sort of fell in love with JavaScript. And for me, this just feels more JavaScript cozy. The JavaScript I like.
Yeah,
so
and
that's why I like it.
I mean, and Jesus, just compare this. Even if I remove this line and go and do the class arrow function here, I keep forgetting how it looks.
Equals parentheses and then the arrow.
Yeah, like Jesus, this is like, look at this. It's so much cleaner. So much smaller.
I wonder how many times you use this is fewer lines of code argument versus this is the more optimum performance argument. You can, at any time you have an argument for the functional programming JavaScript methodology.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, this is not even, it's just less code. Like it's not more terse. It's actually genuinely less stuff we're doing. We don't have to do, like, there's no equivalent to this.element because we can just use element immediately. And there is also, like, there is no performance difference between these two. They are equally ineffective.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, can you do the too long didn't read? What did we learn?
Yes.
About arrow functions? Class property arrow function. I hate the name.
Yeah.
It's a good name because it is class and then you have a property and then you arrow function it. But couldn't someone suggest a better name?
Yeah, it says exactly what it is, but
yes, I know.
I mean, the name is bad because the thing is bad. It's a complicated thing that it's. I think that the name is correct. It's the thing that is bad.
Okay, yeah.
Shouldn't.
Okay, so for me, the too long didn't read is you don't have to use bind if you just use factory functions.
Exactly. Just use the goddamn factory functions. Really, they're nice.
So in the example from the last video that we did on dev tips, like in the end, we sort of discussed the on-click handler, and like the use case was that when we're looping through a list of dragons,
Yep.
and we want to tie on-click handlers for each dragon,
Yep.
that was when we had to bind to ensure everything. How would that work here?
Like it would just work. You wouldn't need to use bind.
Yeah.
Because
Great!
yeah, it solves the problem.
Yeah,
it solves the problem. It should be said again that this is not memory efficient. We're creating a new function enclosure on every dragon, but you will But if you do a lot of binds, you have that problem anyway. So you might as well use a factory function.
And like always, don't optimize if you don't have a problem with performance.
Good God, yes. Always wait for the problem to arise. Don't try to think that you can. Premature optimization is the root of all evil.
If you haven't checked out Framer X, and if you're a developer that work with designers, check out Framer X.
Do it. Do it now. All right. This has been, if you're new, this has been an episode of Fun Function. We release these every Monday morning, 0800 GMT. You will forget that, so you can click here to in order to subscribe, or you can click here if you want to watch another episode right now. I am MPJ.
And I'm David.
Until next Monday morning, stay curious.